Hello and welcome to the Prospect Blueprint, the podcast that helps student athletes, their parents, coaches, and others that support them to chart out the best options to get to the next level, whatever that next level might be. My battery mate, as always, is none other than Mr. Rick Dempsey, 24-year MLB veteran with the Twins, Yankees, Brewers, Dodgers, and Orioles, not to mention the 1983 World Series MVP. Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Cal, ready to rock and roll. We finally got a catcher at the other end, that's somebody I can relate to.
Yeah, they say that catchers make great coaches. I think he's a damn good coach, frankly. But let's talk about Coach Nick Derba, University of Maine, Black Bears, now entering year number 8, I believe, as their head coach with a nice little run in 2023, where the team took the American East crown with a 32-21 overall record, not to mention almost unbeatable at home at 14-3. As a player in the St. Louis Cardinals organization, he was selected in the 31st round. God, I wish they had 31 rounds now, you know? Those good old days. 100 rounds, everyone gets drafted. You played 6 years in the Cardinal system. I had a highly decorated playing career at Manhattan College, where Coach Derba was honored as a 3-time All-MAC first-team coach. I will call it an MAAC because there's a MAC also. We won't get it confused. He was the only 3-year captain in Manhattan baseball history and still ranks among the school's all-time leaders in career home runs, hits, runs scored, games played, and RBIs. They, as I said before, and many have, catchers make great coaches. Coach, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. And that's probably the best introduction I've ever received, so I appreciate that.
We'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, you're into your 8th year now, and you've had a pretty good run so far. But I think as I look back, you had a great year before last, 32-21. Kel was just talking about it. And then last year, the roof kind of caved in a little bit. Is that because, that most of your players are getting picked up by other people, they want to go other places, or what? And how it's got to be tough for you once you have such a good season, a couple good seasons back to back, to keep those players there. How do you go about keeping them with you at your school?
So, last year was that's a really nice way of putting it. The more than the roof caved in was what it felt like. But we had a ton of injuries, and we really didn't get hit by the transfer portal, actually. I was actually talking to somebody the other day about this, and it felt like we had a curse amongst us. We had 14 or 15 injuries, really unrelated, and, it happened to hit all of our top guys. Now, as far as losing guys in the portal and being able to, and working through transfers, 2021, 2022, 2023, we had some really good years, capped off really in 23. We openly talk about, hey, look, most people don't show up to Maine because of the nice weather, right? That's number one, right? People know what they're getting into when they come to Maine typically. And I think that actually helps us out in the long run. When battling transfers or enticing transfers, because there's not a whole lot of frills here. People typically, in our first phone call, which I think is really one of the advantages that we actually have here at Maine, is that within the first phone call, people are saying, hey, Derbs, like, I appreciate it, but I don't want to be there. The cold scares me. Or I have guys that say, hey, you know what? We're in. Like, let's work on this. And from that moment, I think it gets much easier because we all automatically start on the same level. We automatically understand that, hey, I'm not selling you sunshine. I'm not selling you anything. This is what we have. We travel a lot. We are preparing players very well for professional baseball. As you guys know, when you're on the bus, right? You're on the bus a lot. You got a lot of things to take care of. So, for us, it's really, I tell guys too, if you don't want to be here, that's fine. Like, it's okay. I can understand why you might want to go to a warmer climate. The fact of the matter is I think that we develop players and men as good, if not better, than anybody else in baseball, professionally or college. And that's what we tell guys. Look, if you want to go somewhere else, this is not sexy. Maine is not sexy. But you want to bootstrap it up and come get to work and have a chance of living your dream, this could be a place for you. It might not be, but it could be one of those places.
Nick, you had a tough schedule last year. from the very beginning. So you've got to keep your players healthy under those conditions. If something happens to a couple of key guys, it can really throw everything off whack for a while. So, what is your philosophy going into this season to try to keep these guys healthier and ready to play some ball, even though the weather isn't going to be satisfying all the time?
Aside from going to church a little more often and really praying for some better breaks, I am trying to work on really work on some of the cadence of our practice times, really try to make sure that we can prioritize getting lifts in. My athletic director probably won't love this, but, we're trying to spend a little bit more money on staying an extra night in a hotel, because our bus rides, we open up at Louisiana Tech this year. We're gonna fly down on a Wednesday for a Friday series and return on a Monday. We're gonna miss some classes and such. But I think that just getting those 2 extra nights of sleep might give us an opportunity to recover and prepare a little better, right? I think sleep is the best medicine that we can offer anybody. So just getting some guys a little extra sleep. We're trying some stuff. I don't know if any of this is gonna work. I hope it does. But ultimately, the players being healthy and wanting to show up to the baseball field. If we're accomplishing those two things, we got a chance of winning a lot of games. If one of those two things are out of whack, it's very difficult to overcome.
Nick, doing what you do, you've got to be able to relate to a lot of guys when you're talking to players to come and be part of your program. Um, that's the one thing. We've interviewed quite a few baseball coaches all over the country, and it's the same. All of them have a very good way of approaching the players. How is it that how do you handle your guys when you want them to come? What are the things that you focus on?
It's really simple. I just try to treat people as I expect to be treated. Right? You follow the golden rule. I mean, that's really all I want is I my expectation is that I will bring the most energy every day to this field, and if anyone can kind of get close to me, great. There'll be some days I need my assistant coaches to kick me in the butt, just like I'll do to a player. But this is us, right? I tell our guys all the time. The players run the asylum, right? The inmates run the run the cell. I run the penitentiary. So when I have to get involved, it's a different story. But everyone knows my expectations. We have very clear cut expectations for us off the field, on the field, and these are just things that I abide by. So I try to live what I expect, and I'm not above reproach. I want my players to come up and say, "Hey, Derbs, like I think we could do this better." Right? This is a team, right? I have a final say in many ways, and it's my job to be the front facing, person as far as all the bad stuff. But this is us. We gotta live and die together. The ship will sink, right? If
Yeah.
not everyone's pushing the same way, the ship will sink, and that's important. Those guys matter to me. The players specifically matter to me, as much as I could really evaluate another person outside of my family.
That's a great answer. Although you're a head coach, and all good leaders need to have good people around them. So being open to other people's insights and ideas is absolutely critical. I'm 100% open-minded to anyone that I work with to come up with something better. It's like I'm all ears. You can't have an ego if you're going to grow. You can't grow with an ego. Real quick question on just the overall strategy behind scheduling. How do you pick your schedule? I know you do it like a year in advance and everything like that. What kind of considerations you take in mind, and then and how do you negotiate out that schedule?
So this is a different schedule. It's still very difficult. Louisiana Tech, Citadel, and George Washington are our first three series. There's three
Yeah,
very good programs.
yeah,
But so this is the first year we really tried, with the exception of going to Ruston. We typically try to do our longest trip early on because we do have President's Day off, and that's one extra day of travel without missing classes. But other than that, we really are trying to stay within direct flights or busable schedule. And this is the first year, week 4, we're going to bust down to Bucknell. We're going to play a little bit more in New York this year. I don't think I prepared our team well enough last year. Despite injuries, our schedule did not prepare us well enough to come back and play in the cold. We played a lot of 90-degree weather days, We showed up to Bryant opening weekend. It was 40 degrees. I failed in preparing our team for that opening weekend. And that's what I tried to address a little bit this year. And there was a little bit of a helter skelter last minute change, but we're trying to spend a little more time in the cold to prepare for our conference play. Because at the end of the day, the only way for us to get anywhere in this baseball world is to win our conference. And we play cold weather games. We got to be ready for it. And that right now is the current philosophy of what I'm trying to build and how to build out our future schedules.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, this is a question that we're going to ask all the coaches basically because it's everybody had this, and I call it their portal WTF moment. When you realize that you're going to have to recruit your own players to stick around as well as others to fill spaces. When did you realize when the portal first manifested that this was going to be a challenge?
I pretty, immediately we knew it was a challenge, but I also realized it was an opportunity, right? Like, in anything, I think a challenge is sometimes disguised as an opportunity, and it could be vice versa. I think that for us here at the University of Maine, competing within the level of college baseball we are, I think we're in a position to really capitalize on that. Now, we're going to lose good players. I know Jeremiah Jenkins and Quinn McDaniel had offers to leave Maine at the end of their sophomore year. I know for a fact. They talked to me about it. I know all about it. So any coach that listening that talked to those guys, I know about it, right? I do. I know. But I think that's part of it. I think that, we're going to lose players in the future because they're going to want to go somewhere. They think things are better. They think people are happier, you know, but ultimately, the guys that have left Maine to pursue other opportunities elsewhere, I still stay in touch with them. They still stay in touch with our team. Um, you know, I recruit these players based on, hey, look, you might not be here tomorrow because we might not be a fit for you. Meaning, I say, hey, we got to make a decision to change your career trajectory at Maine. It's vice versa, and these guys, I don't love it, but I also think it's really fair, right? Because if I can turn around and say, hey, I don't think you should stay here next year, well, they should have the opportunity to say, hey, coach, I want to leave and go play somewhere right away as well. So, um, challenge, opportunity, I think for me as a younger coach, I have most of my career ahead of me, I hope at least. Um, I think that this is an opportunity for me to really be able, and for our program to really take a step forward, rather than really worry about, hey, do you want to be here or not? Because that still goes back to what kind of culture you have, and what are you trying to do?
Yeah, yeah, I understand. That honesty policy is really critical for a coach because sometimes there's not a good fit for whatever reason. I mean, Jenkins is your hitting guy. I mean, when he hit 350 something, 341, he's a major offensive weapon. Not a guy you want to lose, right? That's for
No, and
sure.
and and
Yeah,
we talked about it openly. That's the thing. I talked with these guys openly about, like, look, like, if you're gonna get an opportunity to go and play somewhere, right? And like life-changing money, like, I understand there's life-changing money out there, right?
yeah,
I would like to experience that myself. But I tell our guys, look, if you're looking to make money today and your goal is to only play professional baseball, you shouldn't be here anyway. Because when someone tells me, hey, I want to play professional baseball, I say, look, that to me shouldn't be your goal. Because that's your goal, you're never going to get to where you actually want to be. You either want to be a big leaguer or you want to be a me. You want to go back and coach, right? Like, if you're trying to be a big league player, you have to play every day. You have to be able to develop and have mistakes. And then if you're good enough to get to professional baseball, you still need to be a big leaguer. So I try to tell our guys, like, the sights should not be set on getting drafted. The sights shouldn't be if it's on getting your first million. More than likely, you'll play a little bit in the big leagues, but that $1 million is probably going to spoil the well for you. If you want to be a big leaguer and make life-changing money, that's what you want to do, then go be somewhere where you can do that every day and progress and fail. Because if you
yeah,
go, listen, some schools, I told Jerry, I said, look, there's no guarantee you can go to XYZ school for $800,000 in NIL money. You can go there, but you go 0 for 4 at Maine, guess what happens? You're playing again tomorrow. right? But you go
Yeah,
somewhere else, there might be another guy that's there for 500K. You gotta know what you're signing up for.
yeah, yeah.
So, it's part of the education process for these guys.
Last question for my at bat, then I'll hand it over to my superior partner here. And that's the whole JUCO thing. So I know that uh, there was a case with out of Tennessee where they allowed the young man to have another year. Basically, federal judge says that the eligibility situation should have no effect whatsoever. If you were in JUCO, they're not. The NCAA is not a governing body over JUCO, so they can't take those years of eligibility. Of course, now the NCAA said anybody who has played JUCO and would have aged out, graduated out this year, still has another year of eligibility. Some might have two. I don't think that you're going to ever wrangle that pig back into the poke because I think that there's so many lawsuits lined up to take away the eligibility rule that has been in place for so long. How does that affect you when there's guys out there who could come in and help a program who are more mature bodies, have more experience, they're older and they're stronger?
I mean, it's a huge advantage to be older in general. I think it wasn't me, but someone said to me the other day that in the College World Series this past year, or maybe there was no freshman on the field, baby, on the final game. I mean, a 23, 24-year-old, no matter how skilled you are at 18, probably will win more days than not, right? I mean, that's the fact of the matter. Age matters. That's why you don't see a lot of 18-year-olds in the big leagues, right? I mean, strength and size and experience matter. How will that change? That will change. Once again, I think that this is an opportunity for places like Maine. Now, it may differ, but a high level high school arm, high level high school player that is a power four autonomy five type player, you know, and they don't want to go to JUCO, might become more attractive to those places, right? And this goes to me being open to evolving as well. If it turns out that Nick Derba and the University of Maine has to become the 2-year JUCO for 4-year schools to prep guys to go and move on, it is what it is. Because there are going to be a lot more players, a lot of really good players that are going to be available in junior college, uh, just because they're at junior college. And I think it's going to be something that you'll start to see a lot of players start to go that route. Um, you know, they can go and get 2 years of credits, walk into a place as a freshman eligibility, and effectively what we are just doing is following the current college hockey model. And that's really the way I view it is, college hockey right now, you have 21-year-old freshmen, they go and play juniors wherever it might be. I just think the lay of the land is going to look very similar to what college hockey is, and
Hmm.
you might have a 26-year-old senior, and it is what it is. You just got to adapt, or if you fight it, you'll probably die along with it.
Nick, I'm going to skip over my questions about the freshmen and how tough it is for them when you got all your ways of getting guys there. In order to get yourself back in a winning program, you've got to start developing your pitching staff and your catching. You don't want to have a lot of guys in scoring position. At the end, I don't like what Major League Baseball is doing right now, just kind of letting people steal second base. I mean, it's out of control, and it's changing the way that maybe a lot of people will start thinking about how am I going to put this team together? At the college level, you guys are still sticking to the fundamentals of the game. You got good catcher back there, stop the running game, be able to block the ball, allow the pitchers to pitch out of the strike zone when they're ahead in the count. Tell me how you and your staff are going to prepare now to get back on track again with the pitching and the catching.
I mean, it just comes down to just day one emphasis, right? I mean, yeah, we have some of our horses back, and we've gone out and we've brought some players in that number one. So number one, this is really the first or second year I could say that it's been the biggest priority for us is whoever's in this class, their velocities may or may not have been where we thought they needed to be, but they commanded 3 pitches. That's period. So the guys that are on the staff right now, every one of them, the first hurdle they had to come over when we were recruiting was, are you striking out and or are you walking guys, right? And for me, growing up in the Cardinals, coming up through the Cardinal system, I love sinker ballers. I still love sinker ballers. I think early contact is great. I think that I'm hoping that that's coming back, and but that's what we're building our philosophy on is, hey, early contact, and then maybe you get a strikeout here and there, but like make them swing the bat, and that's really what we're talking about. Is just getting guys to swing the bat. It's okay if the ball is put in play. We're gonna make the play, and might be able to roll two out of it, right? Like, and that's really it. Just getting back to say, hey, ball in play, make them swing the bat. Good things could happen.
Nick, I got to tell you, during the course of my career, I caught 16 Cy Young Award winners. A lot of them were actually on my own teams. But Oral Hershiser had the most incredible two-seam fastball I have ever seen in 1988 when he went 59 consecutive scoreless innings. And when he got behind in the count, I didn't mind telling the hitter, "Hey, be ready for the fastball," because I wanted him to get back into the count again. So, but nobody ever got a base hit when I told him that. And it was so hard to hit that two-seam fastball. Sitting on the inside corner with my glove, he could hit the outside corner. That's how much movement he had in a two-seam fastball. Usually it's like right around in here. Oral was out there.
Yeah,
It was amazing. But
and the depth.
I love what you're talking about, two-seam fastball.
I
Wow.
mean, I mean, and I think a lot of, and this is to me, I think this more been like a mentality thing for me, like understanding where we are with the youth, right? The younger players.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up. If you don't throw strikes and you don't they don't hit the ball, it's not good. I was very lucky to have some very good coaches coming up, but that was something that was lost, and I think that just guys understand you can't strike anybody out unless you have two strikes. You know what I mean? You can't strike
Yeah.
anybody out in an 0 count. You need ball and play to be able to get to the seventh inning. And that's something that I think that is maybe coming back. I hope it is, just at all levels. But it's really the truth. You gotta roll ground balls to be really good.
You've got to be creative. When you have control of your pitching staff, there are times in the games when you do things other people don't understand.
Yeah.
Like I got situations where I had a lot of communication with my pitchers. I was always the guy to warm them up in between starts because I worked on those release points. When I saw the release point where it should be, that's when I started communication. But during the course of the ball game, there was some little philosophies I used every now and then, not all the time. But the only pitch a right-hander to a right-hander doesn't look for, a right-handed batter look for, is the breaking ball on the inside corner.
Yeah. Yeah. Front
I
door.
wear some guys out with that pitch. When the process of communicating with the pitching staff, you come up with little things that only you do, no other team does, and that was one of them. Got us out of a lot of big jams.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, and hopefully I'm not tipping off any reports here, but the ability to be able to front door that breaking ball, it frees you up to go back to a sinker or even pitch out of that window, and it's really an incredible thing. And now it's hard to command, but like it just opens up so much part of the plate
I
without
know
having
it.
to do a lot.
God, those
Well,
bring back memories of some pretty good runs back over my 27 years.
Oh, I bet it does.
Yeah, it really does.
well,
What do
which
you think,
oh,
Cal?
sorry. Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to know. Basically, you got some pretty tough ball clubs in that particular conference. Which teams in the American East do you think are going to give you the biggest run for your money, considering there's really so many changes from roster to roster and year to year?
So it's the level of play is kind of like really bunched up. The parity's pretty impressive, and I'm not even sure what the rankings are. I think Albany's down at the bottom. I actually think Albany's been a very good team this year.
Hmm.
You know, they're all the cool thing the nice thing about the America East is that you got seven teams and there's seven very different philosophies of each coaching staff and each team. But as normal, Binghamton and Bryant, they're going to be two very good teams. But I also know that Albany's going to go put together a very experienced lineup with a couple of really good arms. UMBC is probably featuring one of the best hitters in the league, along with a very good staff, pitching staff. NJIT runs out really good arms every single year. UMass Lowell was very competitive last year, very athletic. So, I think that Bryant and Binghamton are always going to be the top of the league, and they're just the easiest to say because they've been very good for so long every year.
Mhm.
But every single year, no matter even the 21, 22, 23 season, every single conference weekend game was an absolute dogfight.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing about college baseball is, if you ever get to go watch a game, every game matters so much, for record and for your own pride. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah. And especially getting hot late. It's like we just had Coach Hendrickson from SLU on, and they were hot all year long. They were pretty good. They won 37 as well that last year, but when they got into the playoffs, they hit the wall. Which happens. You'd rather hit the wall sometime, earlier, not too early, but maybe early mid
Yeah,
season.
right.
Where do you see the future college baseball? Is the NIL here to stay? Is it even sustainable if the money isn't able to be written off by the entities paying it out? When does a car dealership get tired of, dropping, $100,000 when they can't write it off?
Yeah, I think NIL is here to stay. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm pretty confident it's not going to look like what it does now. I just don't think it's even, from an economic standpoint, I don't even think it's reliant on any sort of market facts, right? Like, uh, we're basically playing with monopoly money and we're just throwing money around. We haven't started NIL. We're just the beginnings of trying to work on it for the University of Maine, but I think it's here to stay. I think college baseball in and of itself is going to probably start to look a lot more like what football looks like. I don't know if it's going to be tiered out in the same way officially. I hope it doesn't. I hope that we're always able to play for the same College World Series, for other reasons. But basically, I think that it's already tiered out in a way, right? I mean, we're not in the same. We're literally not in the same ballpark as LSU, right? The teams that are in the College World Series every year, they are there every year. SEC, Power Fours, even some Group of Fives, but that's the nice thing about baseball, right? You can still have Evansville from last year, right? You can sneak in and do something, have a really good year, and put together a very good team. So I do think college baseball is changing. I do think NIL is here to stay. The one thing I will say is I do hope that college baseball and any proponents of it will allow us to really entertain the possibility of moving our season and giving us a chance to actually make some money, you know, to be worthwhile for a lot of our departments.
Rick, when we talked to Coach Hendrickson, he mentioned that there was a suggestion that they do a conference all-star tournament. So you get the best of the best of each conference and they do battle,
Mm.
because truth be told, I've got two kids at VCU right now playing. They played Evansville last year in one of them did the Greenville Regionals. And I think that particular conference, the A10's got some really good guys, and they beat Wake Forest. I really believe that would be super exciting, actually, to see. I would rather see that, frankly. I think there would be a lot more interest on television than with the College World Series. That's just my take. All right, before we do Rick's final take, I decided to throw something in there just for the fun of it because you two guys are catchers. I just kind of wanted to play around with this one. And this is a word association. First thing that comes to your mind. We're only going to do a few
Oh
up here.
no. Put
And
your
there's
seatbelt on, Nick.
I thought that's how I feel. I feel the same way, Rick. So it's all right.
Okay, this one's tame because I just came up with it the last second. But favorite catcher ever,
Yogi Berra,
favorite catcher with the Baltimore Orioles
Rick
ever.
Dempsey.
Bingo. I rig that every time. I love Yogi Bear. Yogi Bear is way underrated. Favorite pitcher of all time.
Wow. Favorite pitcher of all time. I'm gonna go with Andy Pettit.
Whoa.
Oh, that's a good
Whoa.
call.
Whoa. I'm thinking, hey, Rick, your
Yeah,
question to you, favorite pitcher of all time. If it was Earth versus Mars and, the civilization that loses dies,
Catfish Hunter.
Ooh,
Catfish
Catfish
Hunter
nice.
and
Hunter,
Jim Palmer are real close together.
Palmer, I could see. Interesting. Okay. 2-0 count, swing or take.
Swing.
I love that. That is a great answer. Best player you ever coached.
Jeremy Pena.
If you had to change one thing about your development, about your, daily regimen or whatever as a player, what would it have been?
Better sleep patterns.
Interesting. Bigfoot, real or fake?
That's
Oh,
good.
gee.
Be
Fake,
honest.
fake. He's fake.
Oh, dude.
I,
Okay. It goes from, top five to bottom five that quick.
Oh my God.
Rick, any final words? That was a little.
You
I'm a
know what?
Bigfoot guy.
I've asked him every question I wanted to ask him, but maybe one here too. Coach, are you going to be down in the Maryland and Baltimore area for your season? What schools do you play down there?
UMBC.
UMBC's in our conference. We're not down there this year, but we'll be down there for sure next year, no matter what. And we have actually
Yeah.
we have a couple games there next. Oh no, I'm sorry. We're at DC this year, but George Washington. That's close enough, though.
Really? Yeah, it is close enough. I would like an opportunity if I'm in that area. I want to come down and see your ball club and have a chance to talk to you. 'Cause,
I- I'll get
you
you
know,
my cell phone after this.
I am really, yeah, I'm really at my ends with what's going on with pitching and catching at the major league level. They just want as many 100-mile-per-hour throwers as they can, sit them out there on the mound, throw as hard as you can every single pitch. When you wear out, we'll get somebody else, and blah blah blah. But I just enjoy so much sitting down with pitchers, especially, and some catchers, and say, you know what, guys, this position, this job is how teams win. It's about precision. Yeah. Precision is the word that I say. Catcher's got to give the right target exactly where he wants his guy to throw the ball, whether it be an inch off the plate or an inch up a little bit or something. That's how Palmer won so many ball games. He was very precise. And that's the way I felt. I've got to set up on the exact spot. There's no getting lazy, going to one leg all the time. This is how you win at every level, is being precise. And that pitching staff and the catcher have to get along perfectly. I don't care if you like each other or don't like each other, but when they say play ball, you've got to be on the same page together.
I saw something recently that said the average missed pitch in Major League Baseball is 14 inches. And all I could think about is, do you think Jamie Moyer was missing by 14 inches?
What a name you threw out there.
Right?
He's the only guy that pitched for the Orioles that won more games than Jim Palmer. Career.
I didn't even know that.
He was like, how magician. Like,
yeah,
that guy should be on that guy should be talked about more. I mean, I remember watching him, man. Like, he's 81, 82, just flipping it and cutting it like crazy.
I saw him throwing 60-mile-an-hour changeups perfectly, like that far below the knee. I mean, he was incredible how he would get through an inning and he couldn't bruise you with a good fastball.
No, but he would blow guys up, though. He would blow guys up at 79.
I saw it time and time again.
Oh, man.
That was a great call. My favorite, coming up with that name.
I know. I haven't heard that in a long time either. And he threw pus.
Yesterday, you heard it yesterday.
Jamie Moyer?
In our interview, I asked exactly. Maybe no. That was another thing. I'm sorry, it wasn't yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday for me. Yeah. Mark Wiley called me, a pitching coach, and he wanted to know who was better than Palmer.
Former Cleveland Indian pitching coach.
Yep.
When did we become obsessed with heat? When did, popping it in the upper
Analytics is ruining the game of baseball.
Nick, what about your staff? Boy, we're going way off script here, but I know on the team that I know about has like 10 guys over 90. And but the guys who are the most effective I like the Jamie Moyers. It's the lefty, the crafty lefty who throws from the side. I mean, what does your staff look like? What's its makeup? I'm just curious.
So, this is not meant to be anything but a baseball, but people will probably refer to me as the ultimate fence straddler in many ways in my life. I think everything's got a place. I think there's value in velocity, right? Like if I could have if we could have some Nolan Ryans running around, be 96, 97, and be able to locate, command two pitches, great. But the fact of the matter is that I still think that command is as much of a talent as throwing hard. And I think there's a synergy where we can get to.
You're so right.
And for me, it's not one or the other, right? Like, hey, I want guys to put the ball in play. Yeah, I want guys to hit home runs too, but can we be closer to in the middle somewhere? Right? Can we be well-rounded is what I'm getting at. So I think we're just kind of on one end of the spectrum right now in baseball. I'm really hoping that we kind of swing to the middle a little bit because there are some really good players that aren't playing today. Like this Craig Biggio, is he a big leaguer today? Like
No.
he's a Hall of Famer. He was my favorite player to watch. Is he a big leaguer today? I don't know.
There's a
Craig
lot that
Biggio.
aren't.
What
And
was
that
the
was
name
sort of-
that you threw out?
Oh, Craig Biggio.
Oh, Biggio. Yeah, no, catcher, second baseman. He
Right?
played every.
Is he a bona fide big leaguer today? I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't seem like it, but you know what? That's why I like the idea of keeping these kids. The idea that somebody who has their JUCO, the eligibility issue is taken care of, it's washed aside, and you've got older players. They have more of a chance of potentially getting signed because they're more mature. They got more mature bodies. They've got more experience, and since the average major leaguer is 28 years old, to me, it sort of levels the field between the Dominicans who come in at 15 and are on the payroll till they're whenever. Now the younger player. The American player gets to develop in college, which is kind of a slick thing and all. And then they have a better chance. I mean, there's probably Hall of Famers out there, Rick and Nick, that are working at Home Depot because it ended at 21. And it's like, well, wait a minute, there was so much more.
I agree, and I'm hoping that we get close to football in that sense, right? You go to do your 3-4 years of college, and we're utilized as a lower level minor league to send guys into professional ranks and go out and compete and hopefully move up the ranks a lot faster than what has been previously.
Yeah. Rick, I cut you off on the Craig Biggio.
No, that's all right. No, you didn't.
All right. Well,
Nick, what did you play at when you were playing? When you were catching? How big were you?
So I'm 5'10" on a fresh pair of spikes. And I was my best at about 205, 210.
Oh yeah, you're a lot bigger than I was.
And I probably should have been somewhere in the 195 mark. But I probably played at 205, and that was probably my best years. I was right around there.
Yeah, I signed at 145 pounds out of high school, and the scouts told my mother, don't change the furniture around in his room because he'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to give him a chance, but he won't last very long.
Oh,
24 years later, Rick Dempsey, people don't realize what a treasure Rick Dempsey is. I mean, people do. Obviously, I do for sure. 24 years in the big leagues. He played in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Holy cow.
I mean, that's
I had a very good arm and I could run like the wind. I ran track my freshman and sophomore year.
Better than just that.
I ran track my freshman and sophomore year. I ran a 436 mile my sophomore year and a 205 half mile. So all I would do at spring training when they started running, I just outran everybody, and it really pissed them off. So.
Well, that's about all the time we have. But before we say goodbye, I want to call attention to the Rick Dempsey Baseball Warehouse. It's in Columbia, Maryland. Rick, you guys are probably smoking right now. It's still busy time for you.
Yeah, it's been busy lately. So we're doing a lot of catching and clinics and stuff like that right now.
If you're in the area.
But I want to tell you, though, Nick, you have been a supreme pleasure to interview today. That I really enjoyed the fact because we can relate.
Yeah.
I
Can't talk
appreciate
to
you guys
too-
having me on. This was a blast
Yeah.
for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Oh,
one other
God.
thing I want to thank because we have our podcast goes on a website, so I don't have to do all the website stuff. I have to do all the editing, but I want to thank these guys. It's twoadays.com. We thank you for hosting our podcast. It's an amazing site. It's literally sort of a Yelp. It's a review site for college coaches. I highly suggest our listeners check them out before making that big decision on which school to choose. It's an expensive one. The site's kind of amusing. It can be insightful, brutal, and funny, kind of in a sadistic way. You know how some of these reviews can go sideways. And of course, again, props to you for showing up, Coach Derba. We really want to thank you a great deal for popping in and great luck this season. That's about it for here. Everyone else have a great week. Always take your best swing. Rick, thanks. Coach Nick,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, man.
Take
Same to
care,
you guys.
guys.